Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in the fun. I made a new vest. I don't make them often, but vests have to be one of my favorite things to make. They offer a ton of versatility for design and for how you wear them. Buttons, no buttons, texture, or make it smooth. It's all pretty great and you can almost never go wrong. Speaking of, you won't go wrong if you click the bell and get subscribed. It ensures you'll be first in line for new uploads so you never miss out. Also, another thing you should consider doing is giving this video a thumbs up. It goes a way to helping the channel grow so I can keep putting out tutorials twice a week. Now it's time to get off the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 170 grams of yarn. That's 250 yards if you're stateside. As to tools, a 5.5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, tape measure, and optional buttons. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your favorite herb or spice. For me, I'm always reaching for the cayenne. I put it on just about everything. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 5 stitches for this project and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and herringbone stitch. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're first going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're going to grab our 5.5mm hook, and we're all going to start by making an even number chain that reaches from mid-underarm down to where we want the bottom of this top to be, keeping in mind that we will have about a 2-inch bottom border as well. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 22, and that's just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. And now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain, do a chain of 1. That chain just counts as our turning chain, and from here we're going to work on our first single crochet row. So start by inserting your hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from your hook, with a single crochet. Let's do the next single crochet together. Insert your hook into that next chain. We're going to yarn over, pull through that first loop. You should now have 2 loops on our hook, so yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to continue to put 1 single crochet into every chain, leaving the last one so that we can increase together. Alright, so we've just made our way down, putting 1 single crochet into every chain. Into that last chain, we're going to be doing an increase of 3, but that increase is going to be for numbers and for height. So we're going to start with 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, and then 1 double crochet all into that last chain. So let's get that started. Inserting a hook into that last chain, starting with a single crochet, and then into that same chain, we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Insert your hook into that last chain, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. That's our half double crochet. And then we're going to be putting 1 double crochet into this chain as well. So yarn over, insert your hook into that same last chain, pull through 3 loops on our hook, and from here we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And now our first row is all finished up. And doing the increase like this will make more sense once we have a couple more rows for our underarm portion. But once we have our single crochet row, next we're going to be doing 2 moss stitch rows. Those have increases as well. So once we have our increase all finished up, getting started on our row number 2, or our first moss stitch row, we're going to start with a chain 1. That counts as a turning chain. We're going to make a second chain. That's going to count as a chain. And then once we have our 2 chains, we're going to flip our work. Now getting started with our moss stitch, we do need to do an increase. So what we're going to do is skip that first stitch, and then into that second stitch, we're going to insert with an increase of 3 single crochets. So we're going to skip 1, into the second, insert your hook, and do 1 single crochet. Into that same stitch, do your second single crochet, and then into that same stitch, not yarn over, your third single crochet. Once we have that, we all should have our first chain space for our moss stitch row, and then 1, 2, 3 stitches. And then from here, we're going to continue on with our moss stitch row with no increases and no decreases. So just chain 1 from here, skip that next stitch, single crochet into the next. That forms our second chain space for this row. Let's do this again. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet into the next. Just like that. All together, we should have our first chain space, our increase of 3 single crochets, chain space, single crochet, chain space, single crochet. And from here, we're going to continue to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next, making our way all the way down. All right, so we just made our way down with our first moss stitch row, and all together we should have 1, 2 rows. Now let's get started with our third. Our third is going to be another moss stitch row. So start with a chain 2 since we're along the bottom, and flip our work. Now from here, every single crochet stitch that we do is going to be worked into the chain spaces that we made from our previous row. So let's get this started. We're going to skip that first stitch, which is a single crochet from our previous row, and then into that next stitch, which is our chain space or our gap. Insert your hook into there with 1 single crochet. This forms our first chain space. Let's do this again. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, which is a single crochet from our previous row, single crochet into that next chain space. Let's do this one more time. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet into the next. And we do need to increase at the end of this row as well. So continue to do this, making our way all the way down. And I'll meet you guys back right before we start working into the increase section. It's going to be done the same way, but I just want to show you guys how we're going to do it. All right, so we have just worked our way down with our row number 3 with our moss stitches. We should have our increase of 3 from our previous row and our last chain space from our previous row left off, and now we're going to finish this off. So from here, we're going to continue on with the same pattern. So do a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, which is the first stitch from our increase of 3, single crochet into the next. Once we have that, we should have 2 stitches left, which is this last stitch from our increase of 3, and then that chain space. So from here, we're going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then into that chain space that we have, we're going to be doing an increase of 3 again. So insert your hook into that last chain space. It might be a little hard to see, but it's there. And we're going to be doing 1 into that same chain space with 2, and then that same chain space with 3 single crochets. And this is going to be a 6-row repeat, and it's going to be a single crochet row with 2 moss stitch rows following. So let's get started on our row number 4. Our row number 4 is going to be a single crochet row, but same way we ended our first single crochet row, we're going to need to start with an increase since we're along the increase side. And we do need the height for it. So we're going to start with a chain 3 and flip our work. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's just our turning chain. And then into that first stitch, we're going to be doing our increase of 3, but since we're working down with our single crochet row, it's going to start with a double crochet, and then 1 half double crochet, and then 1 single crochet. So let's get that started. Yarn over, inserting your hook into that first stitch from our previous row, we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. There's our first double crochet. Next comes our half double crochet, so yarn over, into that same stitch, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. There's our half double crochet, and then 1 single crochet into that same stitch. So insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2. So altogether we should have an increase of 3 that starts with a double crochet, and then a half double, and then a single crochet. And then from here, we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way up to the end of the row. and this is going to be 1 single crochet into every stitch and chain space, so we're not going to be skipping anything. I'll meet you guys back at the end of this row. All right, so we have made our way all the way down with our row number 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and our next 2 rows are going to be moss stitch rows with our increases. And really quickly, since we have just a few more rows, I can now show you guys why we're doing our increase of 3 into our single crochet row, starting with a double crochet along the edge. We are doing increases into every row, and doing increases of 3 creates this bulge, and we want to kind of combat that with the edge. We don't want to have that when we start working into the shoulder. So this helps us get the height that we need to make our way all the way up to our shoulder. But now that that quick tip is out of the way, we're going to get started with our row number 5, which is a moss stitch row. So start with a chain 2 and flip our work. Now our moss stitch row, working our way down towards the point, is going to always start off the same. It's going to start with a chain 2. We're going to skip that first stitch and single crochet into the next. Pretty simple. Let's do that again. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next. We're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down, leaving the last 2 stitches because we do need to increase with each other again. All right, we have just done our moss stitch, making our way all the way down, and we are almost done with our row number 5, and we should have left our last 2 stitches. To close this off, we are going to chain 1, skip that second to last stitch, and then into that last stitch, we're going to be doing an increase of 3. Now this is a moss stitch row, so we don't have to do our single half double double. We're just going to insert with 3 single crochets. So there's 1, there is 2, and then there are 3 single crochets. Now to get started on our row number 6, we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. Once we have our chain 2, we're going to be skipping that first stitch, and then into that second stitch, we're going to be doing an increase of 3 single crochets. So insert your hook into there with 1, into that same stitch with 2, and then into that same stitch just once more with 3 single crochets. Altogether, we should have our first chain space, and then 1, 2, 3 single crochets into that next stitch. And then we're going to moss stitch the same way, making our way all the way down. So just chain 1, skip 1 stitch, which should be our single crochet from our previous row, and then into that next stitch, which should be our chain space, 1 single crochet. Let's do this again. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into that next stitch or chain space. And we are going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down. All right, so I've just made my way all the way down to the end of this row, and we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 rows. From here, we're going to be repeating rows 1 through 6 until this point that we have can reach all the way up to our shoulder, making sure that we end on a single crochet row that ends along the bottom. I'll meet you guys back once we have all that finished up, and if you guys need timestamps for each individual row, all of those will be in the description as well. I'll meet you guys back once we have this all finished up. All right, so I am back with my underarm portion. I have a total of 16 rows, and my width is just about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. This point should reach all the way up to our shoulder, and now we're going to make a shoulder portion. So we're going to continue on with our row sequence of 2 moss stitch rows and 1 single crochet row with no increases and no decreases. Since we all should have ended along the bottom, right after a single crochet row, our next row will be a moss stitch row, so let's just get this started. So getting started on our moss stitch row, we're going to start with a chain 2 and flip our work. From here, we're going to skip that first stitch, single crochet into that next stitch, forming our first chain space. Let's do that again. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet into the next. We're going to continue to do this, making our way all the way down. All right, so we've just made our way down with our first moss stitch row. When it comes to our shoulder, we're going to be doing another moss stitch row. So just like before, do a chain 2, flip our work, and we don't have to increase or decrease. So skip that first stitch, which is a single crochet from our previous row, into that next stitch, which is a chain space, single crochet. Chain 1, skip a stitch, into that next stitch, single crochet, and keep doing this till you reach the end of this row. All right, so our row number 2 for our shoulder portion is all finished up, and that was a moss stitch row, making our way all the way down. And I'm just going to close off this row repeat with you guys by doing our single crochet row with you guys. From here, we should be along the bottom. Do a chain 1 since our next row is a single crochet row. Flip our work, and then make our way all the way down, putting 1 single crochet into every stitch, and that is including our chain spaces as well. So just put 1 single crochet into every stitch that we have, and then from here we're going to keep repeating our 2 moss stitch and 1 single crochet row repeat until we get a shoulder width that we like. I will meet you guys back right after a single crochet row that ends along the bottom. I am back with my shoulder portion. I have a total of 22 rows now, and my width is just about 5 inches or 13 centimeters. And what we're going to do from here is get started on our neckline. So the first thing we're going to have to do is insert our stitch marker into an even numbered stitch that's right near the base of our neck. So I have already measured mine out. Mine is going to be just about 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters down from the top. And I'm going to be inserting my stitch marker into my 10th stitch. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Since our previous row that we worked on was a single crochet row, we are going to do our moss stitch, making our way all the way up until we have 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. So just to start it, do a chain 2, flip our work, skip that first stitch, single crochet into the next. I'll meet you guys back when we have 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. We've made our way all the way down with our moss stitch, and now we're going to do a decrease of 3 single crochets. It's going to be worked into that second to last and last stitch, and then also that stitch with our stitch marker into it. So let's get that started. Insert your hook into that next stitch, pull through, into that next stitch, pull through, and then into that stitch marker stitch as well, yarn over, pull through. We should have 4 loops on our hook, so yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops. And then from here, we're going to continue on with our row sequence and with our decreases. So just do a chain 1 and flip our work. And now we're going to start with a decrease of 3 single crochets. It's going to be done the exact same way. So insert your hook into that next stitch, pull through, also into the stitch right after that, pull through, and then into that next stitch, which should be our chain space from our previous row. And we should all have 4 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops. And then we're going to moss stitch our way down. So chain 1, skip the next stitch, which should be a single crochet from our previous row, and single crochet into the next. Altogether, we should have a decrease of 3 single crochets, a chain space, and then a single crochet. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next chain space. Continue to do this, and I'll meet you back at the end of this row, and make sure you guys have a decent amount of stitch markers ready because we're going to need to insert them for the next row. All right, so I've just made my way all the way down to the bottom with my second neckline row. Now, since we're along the bottom, whenever we are working our way up, we're going to insert our stitch marker into that 5th stitch from the first stitch that we have, because we want our neckline to be a little bit more steep. So what we're going to do from here, we are still keeping up with our row sequence. We just did our 2 moss stitch rows, and our next row is going to be a single crochet row. So we're going to single crochet all the way down until we are 2 stitches right before our stitch marker again. So getting started on our 3rd neckline row, do a chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch and chain space. I will meet you back when we have 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. All right, we have just single crocheted our way all the way down. We are now 2 stitches away from our stitch marker stitch. And just like our previous rows, we're going to be doing a decrease of 3 single crochets. So insert your hook into that second to last stitch, pull through, insert your hook into that next stitch, which should be a chain space, pull through, and then also into that stitch marker stitch. So insert, pull through. Should have 4 loops on our hook now, so yarn over, and pull through all 4. Do a chain 1, flip our work, and since we just did a single crochet row, our next row is going to be a moss stitch row, but we do need to start it with a decrease of 3 single crochets. So all together, insert your hook into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, stitch after that as well, pull through. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops. And from here, do a chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next. So working our way down with our 4th neckline row, we should have a decrease of 3 single crochet, 1 chain space, single crochet, 1 chain space, and a single crochet. Continue to do our moss stitches, making our way all the way down. All right, so we have just made our way down with our 4th neckline row. Just like our previous row, we're going to be inserting our stitch marker into the 5th stitch from the top from our previous row, and then we're going to do the next row in our sequence. So the next row, working my way up, is a moss stitch row. It's going to be pretty much the same way that we've done everything else so far. So we're going to start with a chain 2 since we're along the bottom, flip our work. We're going to do our moss stitches, making our way all the way down until we are 2 stitches right before our stitch markers so that we can decrease again. We made our moss stitches all the way down, and we have 2 stitches right before our stitch marker stitch. So let's do another decrease of 3 single crochets. Into that second to last, pull through, into that last, pull through, and then into that same stitch marker stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through, all 4. And then the next row that I have in my row sequence is a single crochet row. So chain 1, flip our work, and then start with a decrease of 3 singles. So into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. And from here, just put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and I will meet you guys back at the end of this row. All right, so I am back, and I have just finished up my single crochet row for my neckline. From here, we're going to keep repeating our 6 previous rows, making sure that once we're along the bottom, we are inserting our stitch marker into the 5th stitch from the top until this reaches to mid-chest, making sure that we're placing this first row right where mid-underarm is. We're going to keep doing that, making sure that we end on an even number of rows. And if you guys need a refresher on how to do any of these rows, all of those links will be in the description. I'll meet you guys back once we have this all finished up. All right, so I'm back and I have just finished up the entirety of one of my front panels. From here, I have a total of 30 rows and my width is just about 7 inches or 18 centimeters. And we're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut and then make 1 more identical piece. I will meet you guys back once we have that all finished up. All right, so I am back and I have just finished up making 2 front panels. And now from here, we're going to get started with the back. And how that's going to work is we're going to have the same underarm portion. So pretty simple. Make the same initial chain and then make the same amount of rows that we have, making our way all the way up to our shoulder portion. Once we have that, I will meet you guys back just to show you guys what we're going to do right after that. All right, so I'm back with the underarm portion for my back panel, and all we're going to do from here is continue on with arm 2 moss stitch and 1 single crochet row with no increases and no decreases until this reaches mid back, and then we're going to be making 1 more panel. Make sure that we end on an even number of rows, and then I will meet you guys back. I'm back with the first half of my back panel. I have a total of 34 rows and my width is just about 8 inches or 20 centimeters. I am going to do a chain up of 1 and cut from here and then make 1 more identical panel. All right, so I am back with both of my panels and we are ready to seam it together. So the first thing we're going to do is sandwich our 2 pieces on top of each other, making sure that the length is aligned with the length on the back panel. And we are going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both panels. From here, we're going to yarn over, pull through everything. And from here, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to do a single crochet seam. So to do the first one, we're going to be inserting a hook into that first available stitch into the front panel, then also into that first available stitch into the back panel. And from here, we're going to single crochet. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Let's do this again. Into the next stitch, into the front panel, and then also into the next stitch, into the back panel, and then single crochet. We're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down until we don't have any more stitches left, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so now that this is all seamed up, we are now going to single crochet along the tops of all of our panels, and we're going to get started with the back panel first. So we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of the back panel, insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and then we're going to do a chain up of 1 to secure. And we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, so let's get that started. This is my first side row that I have right here. It is a moss stitch row. If yours is a single crochet, that's completely fine. Just find that top loop, and then we're going to single crochet. Let's do the next one. This is my next side row. Insert my hook into there with another single crochet. And then just to show you guys what the single crochet looks like, this is my next side row, which is a single crochet. Insert my hook into there with 1 single crochet. Continue to put 1 single crochet into every side row until we reach this corner over here, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. We've just finished single crocheting across the top of our back panel, and we're going to do the same thing for our front panel just along the top of our shoulder portion. So just as a refresher, insert your hook into this top corner stitch, and then put 1 single crochet into every side row. Do a chain up of 1 and cut when we don't have any more side rows left to work into, and then do the same thing to the other front panel, and I'll meet you guys back. Alright, so we are back, and we have just finished up single crocheting along the tops of all of our pieces, and now we're going to seam everything together. So the first thing I'm going to do is seam the sides. So I'm going to put one of my front panels away, and from here we're going to want to make sure that the seam for the back panel that we have is faced up towards us, and then when we have aligned our underarm chain with the underarm chain for the back panel, we are going to open it up this way, so that when we do our single crochet seam, it's going to be along the inside, just like our back panel. Now insert our hook into the corner stitch of both of our panels, insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And from here, we're going to do the same single crochet seam. So start by inserting your hook into that first stitch into the front panel, and then into that next stitch into the back panel, and then single crochet. Let's do this again. Into the next stitch into the front panel, next stitch into the back panel, and then single crochet. And that is it. Continue to do this, making your way all the way up. When we don't have any more stitches left, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so now that we have just finished up seaming our side, we're now going to seam our shoulder. So we're going to fold our front panel on top of our back panel, making sure that the seam for the side and the back is still exposed because we want this to be along the inside as well. We're going to insert our hook into both corner stitches from our front and back panel, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and then from here we're going to do the same single crochet seam. So insert your hook into that first stitch into the front panel, next stitch into the back panel, and then single crochet. So pull through 2. Let's do this again. Next stitch into the front panel, next stitch into the back panel, and single crochet. And we're going to keep doing this till we don't have any more stitches left. Do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then do the same thing that we just did here on the other side. Alright, so everything is all seamed up, and now we're going to work on the bottom band. Now we're first going to need to single crochet across the bottom to clean it up. So start by inserting your hook into the corner stitch of the front panel, insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And from here we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, so let's get that started. Start by inserting your hook into that first side row right here. Mine is a single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook into there with just 1 single crochet. This is my next side row, which is this moss stitch. Insert into there with 1. And we're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way around. Once we reach the other corner stitch of the front panel, I'll meet you guys back. Alright, so our single crochet row is all finished up, and now we're going to get started on our herringbone stitch. So what we're going to do is do a chain 2 and flip our work. We're going to start with a yarn over, preparing for our herringbone stitch. We're going to insert our hook into that first stitch. We're going to yarn over and pull through. From here, we're going to pull our first loop underneath our second loop. So go ahead and hook that on. And then we're going to pull underneath just that second loop. We should have 2 loops on our hook. So from here, we're going to yarn over, pull through just 1, yarn over, pull through 2. That is our first herringbone stitch, and this is a double crochet herringbone stitch. Let's do the next one. Yarn over, insert your hook into that next stitch. Yarn over and pull through. Should have 3 loops on our hook, so we're now going to pull that first loop underneath our second. So hook that on, and then if you guys need to turn your hook downward to make it a little bit easier, go for it. Just going to pull that underneath just that second loop. Should have 2 loops on our hook now, so we're going to yarn over, pull through just 1, yarn over, and pull through 2 to finish up our herringbone stitch. Let's do one more a little bit quicker. Yarn over, insert your hook into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through. We're going to pull that first loop underneath our second loop, 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is how we do our herringbone. We're going to continue to do this, making our way all the way down until we have no more stitches left. Our first herringbone stitch row is all done. Now we need to do another one. So just like before, we're going to do a chain 2 and flip our work. And it's going to be done exactly the same way, so let's just do the first one. Yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, pull through. We're going to pull our first loop underneath our second, 2 loops on our hook, so yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. I will meet you guys back at the end of this row. All right, our second herringbone stitch row is all done, and now we're going to switch out to doing a moss stitch row. So it's going to be the same way that we did the shoulders, because we're not going to be doing any increases or decreases. So we're going to start with a chain 2, flip our work. We're going to skip that first stitch, single crochet into the next, forming our first chain space. Let's do that again. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next. We now have 2 chain spaces, and since we already know how to do this, I'll meet you guys back at the end of the row. We've just made our way all the way down with our moss stitch row, and we're going to make our way back doing another moss stitch row. So just as a refresher, do a chain 2, flip your work. We're going to skip that first stitch, which is a single crochet from our previous row, then into that next stitch, which is our chain space, single crochet. Continue to do this until we reach the end of this row. All right, so we have just finished up our second moss stitch row, and we're going to finish this up by doing another set of 2 herringbone stitch rows. Since we already know how to do that, I'm just going to let you guys blaze through those 2 rows, but we're just going to do the first one as a refresher. Just do a chain 2, flip your work, we're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, pull through. We're going to pull that first loop underneath that second, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to put 1 herringbone stitch into every stitch, and yes, that is the single crochets and the chain spaces, making our way all the way down. So no increases, no decreases. I'll meet you guys back when we have both of our herringbone stitch rows done. All right, so we are back, and we have just finished up going in with our last 2 herringbone stitch rows, and our bottom band is all finished. And now we're going to work on the front band. So since we're at the corner, we're going to do a chain 1, flip our work, and working our way up the front panel, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every stitch. So we have our bottom band to work into first. Into this side herringbone stitch, I'm going to insert with 1, and then into the next side herringbone stitch, I'm actually going to insert with 2 just so I can maintain this height, because if we just put 1 single crochet into each, it'll shrink up on us. The next 2 rows that we have should be 2 moss stitch rows. We're going to be putting 1 single crochet into each of those. So find that top loop with 1 single crochet, and then into that next side moss stitch, another single crochet, and then we have 2 herringbone stitch rows again. So we're going to do the same thing that we started off with. Into the first side herringbone, insert with 1, and then into the next side herringbone, insert with 2. So there's 1, and then into that same loop, there is 2. Now I do have 1 single crochet row that separates our bottom band from our front panel, so we're just going to find that side loop, put 1 single crochet into there, And then from here, I have a moss stitch row because this was the last row that I had from my front panel. If you guys have a single crochet row, that is completely fine. All we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every stitch. So there's my first. My next stitch just so happens to be this chain space, so I'm going to insert into there as well. We're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way up until we reach our decrease, and then I'm just going to show you guys how we're going to be working into the side rows, and then how we're going to work into these stitches as well. Alright, so we've just made our way all the way up to our decrease for this last row for our front panel. Now we should have 2 side rows to work into, and all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into each of those. Now this first one may be a little hard to see, but this is my first one right here, so I'm going to insert my hook into there with 1 single crochet. And then this is my next side row, which is a little bit easier to see because this is a decrease. I'm going to find that top loop and then insert with just 1 single crochet. And then from there, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches because we inserted our stitch marker into the 5th stitch. So from here, I'm going to insert into those regular stitches with 1 single crochet each. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And now we are back at our side rows. So this is my first one right here. I'm going to insert with 1. And this is my next one, which is a decrease. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1 again. And we're going to maintain this, making our way all the way up and around. And we're going to bring it all the way back down to this corner that we have right here. And then I'll meet you guys back. We've just finished single crocheting along the entirety of our front band. And now all we're going to do is do a half double crochet row. No increases and no decreases. So just to get this next row started, since we're at the corner, we're going to do a chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Start with the yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. And that's it. Continue to do this until we reach the other corner, and then I will meet you guys back. Alright, my half double crochet row is all finished up, and now just to do the last row for our front band, we're going to be doing front and back post double crochets. So since we're along the corner, we're going to start with a chain of 2 and flip our work. Alright, so now that I have flipped my work, we're going to do a front post double crochet first, and it's going to be worked into the second half double crochet that we have from our previous row. So not this first one because we want this to have a straight edge. We're going to yarn over once, and then we're going to bring our hook underneath that next half double crochet and then through the other side. So bring it underneath the half double crochet body, bring it through the other side, and then from there we're going to yarn over, pull through. We should all now have 3 loops on our hook, so we're going to double crochet per usual. So we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we just finished up our first front post double crochet. Our next post is going to be a back post double crochet, so let's do that one together. We're going to start with the yarn over again, and instead of bringing our hook underneath that next half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook underneath our work and then over that next half double crochet. So insert your hook through that gap. We're going to work over this half double crochet and through the other side. We're going to yarn over and pull through, and then from here we should have 3 loops on our hook. So we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Let's do this again. Start with a yarn over, and then this is going to be a front post double crochet. So we're going to bring our hook underneath that next half double crochet, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now let's do another back post. Start with a yarn over and then bring our hook underneath our work. We're going to insert our hook in between the gap from our previous front post stitch and then our next half double. So bring it up through that gap and lay your hook over that next half double crochet and through the other side. We're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now all together we should have 1 front post, 1 back post, 1 front post, and 1 back post. Let's do just one more set together. Start with a yarn over, bring your hook underneath that next half double crochet and through the other side, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then 1 back post. So yarn over, bring our hook underneath our work, and then over that next half double crochet, pull through 2, pull through 2. And we're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down to the other corner, leaving the last stitch because we want to close this row off with a half double crochet. All right, so we have made our way all the way down with our front and back rows double crochets, and into that last stitch we're going to half double crochet just to make this nice and clean. So yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, pull through all 3. And now that we have this, go ahead and do a chain up of 1 and cut. All right, so one of the last things we're going to do is clean up our armholes. So let's start by inserting our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam. I'm going to insert my yarn onto my hook and pull through. From here, we're going to do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do is keep a medium to loose grip, and we're going to put 1 single crochet into every side row that we have. So let's just do the first few. So this is my first side row that I have right here. I'm going to insert my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, remembering to keep a light grip. Let's do this again. This is my next side row right over here. I'm going to insert my hook into there with just 1 single crochet, and then just to do one more, this is my next side row. So I'm going to reach my hook all the way over here and single crochet. We're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way around. Slip stitch into that chain 1 space and then do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then do the same thing that we did here on the other side. All right, so the last thing we're going to have to do is insert our buttons if you guys want to, and there's really no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to show you guys where I've inserted my buttons, and then we're just going to tie them together. So I've inserted my first button right where this last row for our front panel ends, and I just inserted right in between our half double crochet row and our front and back post double crochet row. And I just seamed it through, tied a really tight knot, and then did a cut. My next button is 1 inch down, and then from there I kept moving 1 inch down to place my next button. My last button is going to be down here. So since I have a shank button, I'm just going to weave my yarn through my button, place it here, tie a really tight knot, cut, and call it a day. All right, so we have just sewed in all of our buttons and we are all done. The last thing we're going to have to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Check us out on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. All of those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.